The year is 2016. You find yourself at a little get-together with your friends, and in between the drinks and the food, someone's playing music from their Spotify. You have to ignore the random commercial breaks because your friend is too cheap to pay for the full version of the app, but in between Designer's Panda and the Chainsmokers' Don't Let Me Down, you hear something a little new. A bouncing bass mixed with keys that sound like they're from a scary movie. You go over to your friend and ask what song she's playing, and she shows you her phone. The song is called Stressed Out, and the band is called 21 Pilots. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Slim Paco, back at you again with another video. How's everybody doing? So, I'm one of those people who first heard about 21 Pilots in 2016, and it's a day I'll never forget because it really changed everything about music for me. Throughout the spring of 2016 and into 2017, the duo from Ohio enjoyed a meteoric rise from underground music act to the biggest band in the world seemingly overnight. It seemed like they were everywhere, and their songs from their album Blurryface racked up millions of plays on streaming services, sold millions of physical and digital copies, and the music videos garnered millions of views on YouTube. Theirs was a tale of how viral success could happen to anyone in the mid-2010s, as the year brought unprecedented accomplishments and achievements not seen from a rock band since the Beatles. And yet, less than 7 years later, you'd be hard-pressed to find one of their newer songs on the radio, and I'm willing to bet most people don't even know that they released an album last year. So what happened to the boys from Columbia? How'd they get so big and fall off in popularity so drastically? Let's take a look at the rise and fall of 21 Pilots. 21 Pilots was formed in 2009 by frontman Tyler Joseph, alongside his two friends from church, Nick Thomas and Chris Saley. Joseph was, and still is, the keyboardist, lead singer, and songwriter, while Thomas played bass and Sally held him down on the drums. The group would play music in various clubs, and exposure to metal, electronic, and emo pop would have a great influence on Joseph, who would then incorporate those various genres into his own music. There are still old videos online of them playing in people's houses, where Joseph's high energy is immediately obvious, along with the almost schizophrenic way he plays the piano, banging wrong keys and shaking his head wildly while screaming into a microphone. Drawing heavily on mental health aspects combined with their struggles with their faith, the lyrics of their music was relatable and met their fledgling audience at the crux. 21 Pilots released an eponymous album at the end of 2009, which was recorded in the basement of Chris Saley's house. And while the reviews of the album weren't eye-popping, many critics noticed that there was potential for the group. And then in 2011, the bottom seemed to drop out. In 2011, Nick Thomas and Chris Saley both left the band for various reasons. With little hope left that he would be able to continue with his dream of having a band, Tyler Joseph was left floundering. And then he would meet someone who would change his life forever. Joseph ended up meeting a music store employee named Josh Dunn, who was a drummer in another Ohio-based band called House of Heroes. Joseph admired Dunn's aggressive playstyle, and Dunn was impressed with Joseph's songwriting ability and stage presence. The two linked up and finished the recording of Regional at Best, utilizing Thomas's bass takes and improvising with additions through computerized instruments. Following the release and moderate success of Rab, as it is commonly known by Pilots fans, the band entered a bidding war with a few labels, ultimately deciding to sign with Fueled by Ramen, who had also signed Paramore and Panic at the Disco. In 2012, following their first ever headlining tour, the group released their third album, Vessel. I actually have this vinyl of Vessel that my sister-in-law got me a couple years ago for Christmas. I don't have a record player, so I can't actually listen to it. Thank God it's on Spotify, right? But yeah, it's got Josh Dunn's grandpa, Tyler Joseph's grandpa on the cover. I think this is pretty cool. Yeah? Vessel was a turning point for 21 Pilots. They released their first single, Holding On To You, debuting at number 38 on Billboard's Alternative Songs chart. This was the song that allowed them to break through into the mainstream as well, with songs like Guns for Hands, Fake You Out, and Car Radio appearing on radio stations all over the nation, even if they were limited to rock and roll or indie playlists. A few of these songs were actually originally recorded for Regional at Best, but once signing with Fueled by Ramen, distribution of their second album stopped completely. And now it's hard to find any of the original songs anywhere. In fact, those who've uploaded songs from Regional at Best on YouTube often find their videos taken down or copyright claimed by Warner Music. But I digress. Back to Vessel. Reception to the album was overwhelmingly positive, with one critic describing the project as proving they were no flash in the pan. Their subsequent tours, at which they played at festivals such as Lollapalooza and the Save the Rock and Roll Tour, endeared them to their growing audience, and the way 21 Pilots conducted their live shows made sure that the fans were always involved. For example, at one of their smaller shows, they went around asking fans to name one of their newer songs, and the final name chosen was Ode to Sleep. Their concerts also became more theatrical, with the duo routinely dressing in gorilla suits and skeleton costumes, Josh Dunn backflipping off Tyler's piano. The Vessel era also marked the first time they won any real awards, the MTV Push Artist of the Month for September of 2013. Small beginnings, yes, but at the very least, they were no longer performing in houses and small dive bars. But the marginal success they were accruing with Vessel would pale in comparison to what would be next for the pair. On May 17, 2015, 21 Pilots released their fourth album, a concept project entitled Blurryface, and were catapulted into the limelight. The lead single, Stressed Out, eventually reached number 3 on Billboard, and the album itself has almost 6 billion streams on Spotify to date, making it the most streamed rock album of all time. The concept of the album surrounds Tyler Joseph's fear and doubt, encapsulated in a character called Blurryface. The album debuted at number 1 on Billboard, shocking many critics of the group, and 21 Pilots sold over 140,000 units in their first week. Ride, Heavy Dirty Soul, and Tear in My Heart also performed well, giving the group 4 singles to lean on. The album was also supported by the Emotional Roadshow Tour, and for the first time, fans were able to see how the concept of the album played out. Joseph and Dunn would paint their necks in Panther soot, fully embracing their Blurryface persona. The release of the album made 21 Pilots household names basically overnight, with millions of young people feeling as if the music was speaking to them directly. There were fan cams, artwork, song covers, custom dances, tattoos, and many different forms of expression related to the band and to the album in particular, and 21 Pilots really seemed to be making an impact with the youth. Blurryface became the first album ever to have all of its songs be rated gold. During the summer of 2016, the band was approached by David Ayer, the director of Suicide Squad, and asked to write a song for the film. Less than 2 weeks later, Tyler Joseph and Josh Dunn released Heathen, and the popularity of the band, which had already doubled from the success of Blurryface, quadrupled. Ultimately, the upward skyrocketing momentum of Blurryface culminated with 21 Pilots winning a Grammy for Best Pop Duo Group Performance in 2017, and multiple awards from iHeart, Billboard, MTV, and other music outlets. The only question left to ask is, where would they go from here? Following the final show of the Blurryface era, in which the band returned to Columbus, Ohio, and played in front of a sold-out crowd at the Schottenstein Center, 21 Pilots disappeared. Quite literally. The band posted a video recapping the Emotional Roadshow tour that ended with a cartoon of an eye closing. Then they went radio silent. No new music, no promos, no active social media posts. Joseph and Dunn stayed out of the spotlight, and while their website was still active, indicating that they hadn't disbanded, there was virtually zero noise coming from their camp. The only information about what was going on with them was when Josh Dunn appeared to accept an award from MTV in 2018, when he commented that the reason why he was alone was due to Tyler Joseph's quote, severing ties with demons, whatever that meant. This year-long absence from the music spectrum led to speculation and wondering. Twitter and Reddit are lit with fans posting theories and quandaries rivaling the most extreme conspiracy theories. Consequently, the band seemed to fuel these rumors in one way. A website appeared called www.dema.org. The website was laden with clues about their next project, but nothing from Joseph or Dunn explicitly. However, on July 11, 2018, the band finally broke their silence with the release of 2 music videos for the new songs, Jumpsuit and Nico and the Niners. These 2 songs were part of another concept album called Trench, which expanded on the universe of Blurryface. And reception to the album was mostly positive. Critics and audience alike enjoyed the project, with NME describing it as more low-key than Blurryface, but ultimately more rewarding. Performance-wise, the songs did not chart as high as their predecessors, with Chlorine clocking out at number 32 on Billboard for the highest-ranked song. Nor were the songs streamed as much as on the previous album, Blurryface. With their fans behind them, 21 Pilots embarked on a new tour to support the album. After promising they wouldn't go on another hiatus once the album cycle for Trench ran out, the band released their 6th, and to date most recent, album, another concept project called Scaled and Icy, on May 21st, 2021. This release also came with a change in logo. Instead of a /O, a Greek psi was now used to represent the duo. Due to the restrictions that came with the COVID pandemic, Scaled and Icy was primarily recorded in Tyler Joseph's basement studio, with Josh Dunn adding drums remotely and sending tracks to his bandmate. A continuation of the story they had created with Blurryface and Trench, Scaled and Icy was not as well received as their previous 2 albums, with one critic describing the album as not a home run, and another bashing the track list as containing a few clunkers. In addition, the subsequent Takeover tour the duo went on to promote the album played in 16 cities for a total of 35 shows, which paled in comparison to the Bandito tour, which played 109 shows even though it was cut short due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Their most recent tour, a follow-up to the Takeover tour called the Icy Tour, ended on September 24th, 2022. As of releasing this video, the band has not dropped any new music. The point that I find very interesting about the history of 21 Pilots is how the Google metrics evaluate how many searches about the band have been made since Blurryface release. Peaking in June 2016 at over 100 million searches a day, the band harvests less than 5 million a day now, a decrease of almost 95%. This is further evidence to their loss in popularity. So I think there are 3 key elements as to why 21 Pilots has fallen off and are no longer as famous or influential as they once were. Those elements are 1. The hiatus, 2. Losing faith, and 3. Growing up.
I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought, cause somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence.
21 Pilots reached the peak of their popularity during the Blurryface era. Their music was regularly featured on radio stations, either on random play or by listener request. As mentioned earlier, they racked up billions of plays and won a wagon full of awards. They were featured on late night shows and were the center stage acts at huge festivals. They played concerts in 5 continents and became regarded as one of the most electrifying acts that music has ever seen. Basically, everything they touched between 2015 and 2017 turned to gold. And by entering the hiatus, I really think they squandered an opportunity to further their popularity and grow their presence in the music scene. Most artists, when they strike it big, will release new music within a year of their big break. For example, when Armani White dropped a Billie Eilish, a song that went mega viral on TikTok back in 2022, he released singles Goated and Gnarly less than a year later. Granted, it appears easier for rappers to release music quicker than musicians from other genres, but I think my point still stands. Gerard Gupta said it best. In addition, the year off allowed people to find other bands to fill their longing for alternative music, and 21 Pilots ended up losing fans to those other bands instead of keeping them around. It also allowed for copycat bands like Half Alive to pop up and steal some of 21 Pilots' thunder. Case in point, Half Alive's debut single, The Fall, was loaded with comments on their music video discussing how much the band sounded and looked like 21 Pilots, and they were able to grow by taking away some of TOP's fans.
It's time to say goodbye to the earth and now my worthless life, cause everything I've ever made is dead now inside the grave.
Tyler Joseph and Josh Dunn both grew up in Christian households, and and profess to be Christians to this very day. They are well known for including acts on their tour that also have Christians in them, such as John Bellion, Judah and the Lion, Mute Math, etc. And while their music has never been explicitly Christian in nature, religious themes and elements have always been evident. That is, until Trench and Scaled and Icy. 21 Pilots' previous 3 albums featured multiple songs with Christian lyrics that fall just short of outing the group, as it were, as believers, and a large percentage of their fan base identifies Christian because of this. As a believer myself, it was really cool to find a band that had a good sound, touched on aspects that were important to me like mental health, and professed faith in the Son of God. However, with their 2 most recent albums, they've drifted away a bit from the religious themes. This was first evident with Trench, and even more so Scaled and Icy. I'm not here to judge, and if Joseph and Dunn are no longer Christians, that's their own choice, but I do think the lack of Christian elements are hurting their popularity.
Now is the climax to the story that
One of the things I touched on earlier in the video that was crucial to the popularity of 21 Pilots was the age range of their fans. Known as the Skeleton Clique, I believe I didn't mention this earlier in the video, most of the fans were between the age of 15 and 25. Kids, really. Of course, Joseph and Dunn were both 26 when Blurryface dropped, so being around the age of their fans helped them relate more. Given the topics of their music, mental health, questioning religion, and self-realization, all appealed to young people, everyone could feel like 21 Pilots was right there with them in the struggle, and vice versa. Just as the members of the duo have matured and grown older since Blurryface, so has the Skeleton Clique. People have overcome the issues they had at the time, coming to peace with their religious questions, seeking help for their mental health through therapy or medicine, finding themselves through the natural or unnatural circumstances of life. Tyler Joseph and Josh Dunn are both now married, and Joseph has 2 children of his own. The ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic forced everyone to grow up a little more and a little faster, as many of us experienced tragedy in our lives surrounding the disease and its effects. This means that while people might still be fans of 21 Pilots, and while their message is still relevant, in a way, needed as much for the zeitgeist as they once were. And this means that their purpose, their mission, the reason Joseph formed the band all the way back in 2009 in the first place, it means it was a smashing success. If 21 Pilots have exited their disruptive interloper phase and settled down into musical adulthood, it's likely a good chunk of their fan base is growing up right along with them. Soon they'll all be clinging to their children's youth, rather than wishing they could go back to their own. Okay, well that's the video. Thanks again everybody for tuning in. I know this was a longer one, so if you made it to the end of the video, you're a real G in my opinion. So what do y'all think? Has 21 Pilots fallen off, or are they set to make a really big comeback when they drop the next album? Will they make a next album? If you have a favorite song or a favorite album by them, let me know in the comments down below. Personally, I've been a huge fan of TLP ever since I first heard their music, and even though I might not be in the 21 Pilots phase anymore, the music's still really important to me as it helped me get through one of the most difficult times in my life. Now, if y'all could like the video if you like the video, turn on notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with your friends and family. I really appreciate it. Sayonara, y'all. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.
We're 21 Pilots and so are you. We'll see you next time.